This is how to start training off ice for a goalie. Let's say we're starting at 0. You've done no off ice training before. First, we'll start with more walking. This will improve your cardio. It helps with teaching your body to burn fat for fuel. It helps with body composition. It's good for recovery, mobility, and both mental and physical health. It's easy to add in. It doesn't interfere with any other training. And the recovery abilities required do not interfere with the other workouts you're doing or any on-ice time at all. Be creative. Find ways to walk more by parking farther away at a store, taking phone calls while you walk, or switching up your routine in other ways to get those walks in. Anyone can add walking into their training program, and that's why it's the first thing I mentioned. It has a ton of upside with nothing negative about it. Then we're going to add in some basic leg training, bodyweight squats and goblet squats. You're going to squat down to a chair or a box if you need to at first, and the intention is to get more practice squatting so that you can go into a deeper range of motion with a heavier weight. So depending on your level, you might want to start with no weight at all, just doing body weight squats, and you might even need to squat down to a chair that allows you to not have to go down as far. It also gives you a target to squat to, so you know exactly how far down you have to squat each time. The progression there is you're going to go a little bit deeper over time. Maybe you have a pillow on a chair, then you remove the pillow, then you use a lower chair, then you get rid of the chair completely, and you start squatting deeper and deeper as you get more leg strength and as your mobility and your balance improve. Then you're going to add weight and do a goblet squat. So it's called a goblet squat just because you're holding the weight in front of you as if it's a goblet. You can use a dumbbell or a kettlebell or a weight plate. Start as light as you need to, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, increase it as much as you can, progress on it over time. Start with 1 to 2 times a week, especially if you're using weight and treating it more like strength training. If you feel like you can do more, you can also practice the squat on a regular basis. So that means even every day if you like. The more you squat, the better you get at the movement and the better your mobility, strength, and leg conditioning becomes. Just by adding in more walking and consistent squatting days, you're making goaltending easier for yourself. This is particularly relevant for someone who plays in an adult league. You'll find that the soreness you get after games and the tiredness you get on the ice will decrease as you start training off the ice more and more consistently. The next step after the walking and squatting would be adding in some other leg exercises. I really like deadlift variations. So there are a bunch of different deadlifts you can do, but we can start here with a Romanian deadlift or an RDL. A couple times a week after squats, use some weight and practice a deadlift or a hinge. Hard to explain here, but basically you're just bending your knees slightly and moving your hips back. You should also look up some videos on form, start light, and do a few sets of 5 to 8 reps. Again, as you get better at this movement, you can and should go heavier. Deadlift variations are great for leg strength, but also for hamstring flexibility. They're one of the best exercises you can do to improve tight hamstrings. Next, we're going to start doing jump variations and plyometrics. If you're older and you haven't jumped in years, start very slow. Try to just slightly leave the ground and slowly increase how high you jump. That means maybe a little bit every week. Things like standing vertical jumps, broad jumps, multiple leaps in a row, 2-foot jumps side to side, and single leg hops eventually. I would say you should dedicate a year to getting better at jumping. It's a skill, and practicing it not only makes you better at jumping, but it makes you stronger, more explosive, and more injury resistant. The key here is to start at your level and increase slowly over time. You really need to be patient with these kinds of exercises. The rep range for plyometrics and jumping really depends on the intensity in your workouts and your training experience. But I always advise to start on the lower end, like 10 jumps in a session, and increase from there depending on your training level. It's much easier to add more reps in after, rather than getting injured right away and having to recover. I've been training this way with plyometrics and jumping for years, and I might do less than 20 intense jumps in a session, 30 to 40 medium jumps in a session, and 100 or so easy jumps twice a week. You likely won't start there though. You should probably start with less volume, see how you feel, and adjust accordingly. Honestly, we could stop here with training. For a lot of goalies, this is enough. If you're new to training off the ice, this is a really good start, and you could spend a year getting stronger on the squat and deadlift and practicing your ability to leave the ground through jumping and plyometrics. For most beginners, I would keep things really simple and just make sure we hammer the basics before moving on to anything else. Doing this type of training will get you strong, explosive, better conditioned, and you'll have better mobility and flexibility as well. If you want to take the next step in your training, here's what that looks like. This is a brief overview, and I'm not going to go into detail on reps, sets, or programming. There are way too many unknown variables to give that kind of advice here. Sprinting once a week. The sprints can replace one jumping or plyometric session. Upper body workouts. For a goalie, once per week is good. You can do 2 times, but it all depends on your schedule and how much time you have. Overhead press, bench press, chin-ups, some bicep curls. Core training. I like hanging leg raises, farmer's walk variations like suitcase carries, and isometrics like hollow body holds. A couple times per week after your lower body workout is great. Dedicated flexibility and mobility work. Some goalies should work towards the splits depending on their goals for hockey and their training experience, injury history, and motivation. I can't cover that in this video, but a couple of dedicated flexibility sessions per week is necessary for a serious goalie. Finally, cardio. 2 to 3 sessions at a zone 2 level of 130 to 150 beats per minute, whether that's running, cycling, using a cardio machine, whatever it is, 30 to 60 minutes a few times per week, up to even 5 hours per week if you can. Then you can add in a day of high intensity interval training, also known as HIIT, something like using the air bike for 10 seconds max effort, resting for 60 to 90 seconds, then repeating again for a few rounds. Cardio is too complicated to recommend generally in most cases, but I do like a mix of low intensity and high intensity throughout the week. And finally, we haven't talked about any targeted work or specific exercises to address problem areas for goalies. Exercises that get you moving in the frontal plane, kickstand hinges to work on internal rotation, breathing work, and all kinds of prehab/rehab exercises were not included here. This isn't an individual program. It's designed to give you an overview, and the first section is where I think a new goalie should start. If you have injuries, this advice may not be for you. You might want to work with a trainer in person who can evaluate you and give you specific advice. There's also nothing about programming in here. It's hard to manage sprints, weightlifting, cardio, core training, single leg training, and everything else with your hockey practices and games. If you want more detail on that, I addressed it in the Goalie Strength Training book. And if you want a dedicated training program for goalies, you can purchase the Goalie Leg program. Both books are available on the Goalie Strength website, linked in the video description below. That's why I like to recommend very basic stuff first. It's hard to go wrong with walking, squat and deadlift variations, and some jumps. We can get much more complicated if we need to, but for beginners, I don't think it's necessary. You might have some questions after this video. Please leave them in the comments and I'll answer everyone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.